Hi. So far, we have our slingshot. We're able to drag it around. We're able to limit how far we can pull back our slingshot. And now we're on to the last step of our slingshot, making it launch our circle into our physics engine when we release our mouse. So let's go and implement it. I can switch over to IntelliJ. Now what we want to do is when we lift our mouse up, if we are already dragging, we need to add that. Then what we want to do is we want to do two things. We want to make our ball non-static. When we create our ball's body, by default, we set it to be a static body, which doesn't move around unless it's moved manually by setting ball body state position. So what we want to do is, so that we can get things like gravity and bouncing working on our ball, we need to first make it a dynamic body, and then we need to apply a force to launch it as if it were pulled from a slingshot. So to do that, we actually have to add a few methods to our static types. So we can go to our body static type. The first thing I need to add is a var treatment, which is going to be a string, and this is static or dynamic. This is going to be a native, and we're going to change this when we launch our ball. And the second thing is applying an impulse. So we're going to create a def apply impulse, which is going to take a vector, a physics.js vector, and this is also going to be js.native, and this is going to return us init, because it's just going to apply that impulse and be done. So now what we want to do is, when we launch our ball, so first we set dragging to be false, we're no longer dragging. Then we want to set our ball to be a dynamic ball. So we're going to take our ball, we're going to grab the body, and we're going to set our treatment to be dynamic. So you can actually go ahead and test this out. If we reload, oh, oops. When I finish, when I let go, it launches our ball into the physics engine and it's able to fall. Now, we notice two things. One, we need to apply our impulse, and two, we need to get rid of this line. To get rid of the line is pretty simple. What we're going to do is at the end, we're just going to set sling end to be none. We no longer have a sling end. But to launch it, what we want to do is we want to take our ball, we want to grab the body, and we need to apply an impulse. And here what we want to do is we want to apply an impulse from where our body is, moving towards the starting position of our slingshot. So to do that, I'm just going to do, we want to move towards our start position of our sling. So we're going to take sling start, we're going to subtract the end of our sling right now. So sling end dot get, and this should bounce our ball towards there. Now if we reload, we're not even applying an impulse. Let's see what happened. Apply impulse is not a function. Well, let's take a look at the physics.js documentation to see what it's actually called. So let's go to physics.js docs. We have a body, and we have apply force. Okay, so it looks like we need to use apply force here. I called it impulse by mistake. We need to use apply force. Yeah. So what I want to do is I just replace apply impulse with apply force. That's the actual name. And so what scala.js did here was, since we created a method apply impulse, it just calls the JavaScript apply impulse method, but we want to do apply force. So now we can go ahead and run this. And what happens is as soon as we let go, it disappears. Because physics.js is expecting the force to be a lot smaller than what we're giving it. So we need to scale it down. But since we have these nice point methods that's super simple, we just take this initial force and we multiply it, and we can just, actually we don't need to multiply, we can just divide this. Let me add a divide method. So we're going to take a divide, take the scale of type double. This is going to equal to a point. We're going to take our x and divide it by the scale, and we're going to take a y and divide it by the scale. So I'm just going to divide it by 100, because that should bring it down enough. Now if I reload, we launch our ball into our physics engine. So now we can do it, and we actually get a pretty nice effect because we have gravity, so we can see our ball being attracted to the ground here, and eventually it comes to a stop. Now this seems all fine, but we have one issue. If I grab the ball, it attempts to let me grab it. What we want to do is, once we launch our ball into our world, we want to keep a state that we've started the game. And if we started the game, we shouldn't allow dragging on the ball to relaunch it. So what we want to do is, we want to create a var at the top here, which tells us if we started, which is going to be false. And what we want to do here is we only want to allow you to start dragging if we have not started. And what I'm going to do here is set dragging to be false and set started to be true here once we launch our ball. And if I reload, I can launch it. And once it comes to a stop, I can't relaunch it. So now our game has started. So now we have our working slingshot launching our ball into our physics engine, but we don't yet have a game because there's no winning. And that's what we'll start working on in our next video, adding a goal. I'll see you then.